Hi College and Career Success, welcome to week 4. So after this week, we will officially be halfway through with our course already. Hard to believe that it's flying by this quickly. So I just want to show you what we are doing in this week, a quick snapshot. So in week 4, we are going to be in chapters 5 and 6. So up here in your week 4 video folder, you have the chapter 5 lecture video link and the chapter 6 lecture video link. As always, I encourage you to either watch those or hop into the materials folder, go directly to the chapters for each of these, the text chapter link for 5 and 6. There are also slides for chapters 5 and 6. So please spend time in the chapters in some way, shape, or form so you have a basis of understanding for what's going on this week. So if we take a look at what you're doing, you have a very full week, so kind of similar to other weeks, where you have 2 discussion boards. So chapter 5 and chapter 6 discussion posts are going to be due by Wednesday for your weekly attendance, responded to classmates by Sunday. Then you're going to have a chapter 5 assignment, a chapter 5 quiz, a chapter 6 assignment, and a chapter 6 quiz. So plenty going on. Of course, as usual, all those assignments, your quizzes, those are due Sunday as well. So this video that you're watching right now is just going to go over the chapter 5 assignments. So you can see up here, we have chapter 5 assignment video. That is what this video is going to go over. So I'm going to talk about your discussion board, your chapter 5 assignment, and your chapter 5 quiz. So let's go ahead and hop in where it says assignments, and we're going to go to the chapter 5 discussion first. So here is our prompt. So chapter 5 does talk about learning styles and things like that, and prior knowledge and background information and reading strategies and so on. So the prompt is, imagine that you were given a chapter to read about the Gettysburg Address. The first part of the discussion post is going to be write down what you already know about this document. Okay, so I am not grading you on, oh my gosh, they know nothing, or how, what, they know all of the things. That is not what you're going to be graded on. Be honest, be truthful, give me your prior knowledge. If you need to do a very quick Google search, that's okay. But the point is to try to kind of get some prior knowledge out about this topic. Then, how might thinking through the prior knowledge you have on a topic, so I know we're giving this as an example, but really think big picture. Having prior knowledge on any topic, how can that help you further understand when you are learning something new about it? So if we're using this as the example, how can thinking through your prior knowledge about the Gettysburg Address help you take in new information when you're learning about the Gettysburg Address in a new perspective, or from a new textbook, or from a maybe more in-depth chapter? Okay, so the first part of it is using the Gettysburg Address as an example. Jot down your prior knowledge, and then talk about how prior knowledge can help you whenever you are learning about a particular topic. Okay, so you can kind of think about splitting it up that way if that is of assistance for you. Okay, so that's your chapter 5 discussion. Post your original response by Wednesday, and then go back in and respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. Your next assignment for chapter 5 is called the 7 Deadly Sins. So this is 2 parts. You first have to read this article. So it's found in 2 places. The link is right here, so it'll open up to the link. I don't like that it makes you register and sign up, so that is why I made sure to include the PDF right here. So it'll open up into, the article right here, and it is out of date at this point, 2006, but it's not necessarily about the date, it's about the context. I'm sure you can probably draw the parallelism, the 7 deadly sins of students and the 7 deadly sins. So you're going to read this article. Again, it's not terribly long, just a few pages, but it's going to go over this author's perspective and how he relates the 7 deadly sins of students. So you're going to read that. Then you're going to open up the actual chapter 5 assignment, which is going to be in this PDF that you can type right in. It's going to ask you a series of questions related to this article. So it's going to say, what is the thesis? So I'm not asking you to define thesis. I'm asking you to tell me what is their thesis. So type out the thesis and where is it located. So a thesis is a 1-sentence summary of a piece of text. So it may be implied, meaning it's hinted or suggested, or it could be directly stated in there. So you're just going to type out what is the author's thesis, what's his main point that he wants you to remember, and where is it located? You know, is it in the first sentence? Is it in the last sentence? Is it in the middle somewhere? How would you describe their tone, like their attitude, their feelings toward the topic, and why did you think that? How effective is this argument? So this author is arguing that students have these 7 deadly sins. How effective is that argument? And explain. What are the weaknesses? What are the holes or the gaps in his argument? And then what does he do really well? Do you agree with the author? Why or why not? So you can't go wrong that way, as long as you provide why you do or do not agree with him. If you were to make a rebuttal, so if you were to come back and say like, hey, okay, so maybe students do have this, or hey, you didn't think about that, you're kind of coming up with like the alternate point of view. If you're in a debate with him, what other perspectives or points would you add? And then what are some of the deadly sins of teachers and professors? So kind of model it maybe after that. So once you've typed your answers, you will come up here and make sure you save it with your changes so I get an actual document that has information filled all in. All right, and then finally you're going to complete your chapter 5 quiz, and so it's going to open just like all your other quizzes. So question 1, it says, today students tend to spend less time reading than in the past, but they don't include in that study the social media time. So do you think you have spent less time reading now than when you were younger? What kind of reading do you do on social media? How does this differ from the kind of reading you are doing in college? Do you think social media has positive or negative impact on your reading for college and professional life? So I know there's a lot bundled in there, but it's really focusing on like reading and how much you've read in the past compared to now and the role social media plays in reading. Question 2 talks specifically about biases. So have you ever considered about preset ideas and how it might apply to you and your own preset ideas? Do you think these ideas affect what you choose to read and study and how you approach assignments? Could they affect the way you interact with classmates? So just kind of talk about your personal biases, prejudices, preset ideas. Question 3, on section 5.2 under allowing adequate time for reading, I'm actually going to show you where this is because students tend to get confused at what this is asking. It says the book offers several quotes from notable names. That means there's quote unquote famous people in here. So if I'm going to go ahead and go to, it would help like the materials folder. Sorry, I'm like all around here. Chapter 5 text, and I'm going to go to section 5.2. Adequate time for reading. Scroll down underneath the picture. Down here, you can see Thomas Jefferson, George R.R. Martin. So you can see a few, Harry Truman, a few Frederick Douglass. Famous people, their quotes. That's the section you're going to pay attention to right there. So you're going to look at those quotes, select one of them, and explain what you think it means and if you agree or disagree with the speaker. Question 4 talks specifically about note-taking. So it says the chapter focuses on Cornell notes, outlining, and concept mapping. Have you tried any of these? Have you used apps? And what is your experience with apps if you've tried them? What method seems to fit your learning preferences best in terms of note-taking? So it's really making you think about your note-taking process. And then question 5 is about learning modalities. When you want to learn something, what is your first choice? Do you read a book, website, YouTube? Think about that. Why did you pick that? Have you always felt that way? Has media changed your reading habits? So once you're done with that, you will go ahead and save and submit that as well. So again, as a quick reminder, this week you are working in chapters 5 and 6. This video just talked about chapter 5. So please make sure you spend time within the chapter. And then whenever you are getting ready to get your assignments done, put your original response to the chapter 5 discussion by Wednesday, respond to 2 classmates by Sunday, read your 7 deadly sins and respond to the questions for the chapter 5 assignment, and complete the chapter 5 quiz. I will be back with your chapter 6 assignment video.